Hello and welcome back to this new edition of Siasa Talks, the only place where we discuss political situations in the country and try to give an interpretation of what they mean to the larger picture of the political destiny of this country. The past week has had a lot of activity in the political space, and we will try to look at each one of them and find the relevance in the bigger picture of our political destiny. But before we delve into that, there's a book called God's Bits of Wood, written by Ousmane Sembene. This book captures the story of rail workers who went on strike in 1947 in Senegal against the French colonial government of the day. These workers believed that this strike will solve the issues they had been having with the French government, and they will have better working conditions. However, as they go into the strike, they realize that the strike has a huge implication on them than anyone else. They cannot find food, they cannot find what to drink, because now they cannot earn from their labor at the railway station. And then secondly, their wives do not support this strike, because it is now the wives who end up suffering more, because they have to pay for all the bills now that their men cannot bring anything home. But as the strike goes on and on, the women realize that the problem of their men are also their problem. So they join into the strike later on, and they define themselves as the African woman in the strike, and they have a very big significance to the success of the strike eventually. What does this story tell us when we look at the political situation in this country? In as much as politics is a game of numbers, in as much as politics is a game of chances, politics also tends to bless those who have a strong stand and stand to the end. So if you see a politician who believes in a certain ideal and stands with it to the very last end, then the gods of the politics will actually bless that man. Just like the rail workers, they stood the strike. No matter what implications it had on them, they never changed their mind. So let's look at what has happened. Much of what has touched the headlines is the impeachment of Uhuru. And we had a very heated conversation in the Senate, and a lot of revelations that would send us back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, why is Uhuru being impeached? And why at this time? Senator James Orengo, who is respected for his mastery of the Constitution and the law, spoke on the floor of the Senate and said, "We know who wants the head of Waiguru. It's not the people of Kirinyaga, but there is one who has sent for her head to be brought." So this leads us to ask ourselves, why is Anne Waiguru being impeached, and why at this point in question? It is very clear that in Anne Waiguru's impeachment, there is another force that is trying to call for that impeachment. And based on that premise alone, it is very clear for us to conclude that the motion to impeach Anne Waiguru may not go beyond the Senate. It will flop. Let's also look at the cooperation agreement between Jubilee and Wiper. And then we'll ask our question, is it any different from a coalition agreement? Well, it is one and the same. It's just the semantics around it. But let's ask ourselves, why now? And when everything happens in politics, we ask ourselves the key question of cui bono? Who benefits from that? And in our previous videos, I have been telling you that what Uhuru Kenyatta did to consolidate Jubilee as a party and get it all for himself is for a reason. And we were asking ourselves in the previous video, why would Uhuru Kenyatta take Jubilee when he's not going to vie on Jubilee ticket anymore, when he's not preparing anyone visibly within the within the ranks of Jubilee party to be the presidential candidate for Jubilee come 2022. So this leads us to a question, cui bono? Who benefits from all this that Uhuru Kenyatta is doing, including bringing on board other smaller parties? And in our previous video, we also said that progressively, the smaller parties are going to be swallowed by either Jubilee or ODM and form some two serious contenders for the presidency in 2022. And we cannot take away the point that all these parties that are coming into Jubilee, plus Jubilee itself, if you look at the DNA of those parties, they're basically Kanu. Kalonzo Musyoka was the longest member of Kanu. Gideon Moi, the leader of Kanu, is Kanu. His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta is Kanu. Isaac Ruto is Kanu. All these people are Kanu. And that's why we're leading to the conclusion that Uhuru Kenyatta is secretly rebuilding the party Kanu and bringing it back to where it was at the time when it was placed in his hands and it dropped at that point. He has managed to resuscitate Kanu progressively, keep it afloat, and now it is the time to make that bold move and declare that I am back to Kanu and here is my Kanu and this is the way for Kanu. So all these parties coming together, the only person that is benefiting from these numbers that are gaining each and every other day is the party Kanu. And this leads us to also conclude that it is very inevitable that in the next government, thanks to the BBI rollout, the next prime minister will definitely be Gideon Moi, because he will come from the party with a majority in the National Assembly and in the Senate. And clearly, if this is to go by what we are identifying as the end game for Uhuru's dominance in Jubilee Party, that he will eventually pour Jubilee into Kanu and declare Kanu is the bigger party. Let's look at the coalition agreements that have been written. The one for Kanu and Jubilee has been put on paper and is a tangible post-election coalition. So why is Kanu getting a prominent position within Jubilee? And these other smaller parties are coming with cooperation agreements, which we know in the long run will dissolve into a perfect coalition agreement. So the party to watch for in the next election, the biggest party that will rock this country is the party Kanu. And I like the way they are doing their business because they are not talking. We're just seeing the moves being made. We're just seeing the decisions being made here and there. But the leaders of Kanu, the office bearers of Kanu are not coming out to speak and tell us that this is what is happening, but they're very quiet. This quietude within Kanu is something to ask ourselves, why are they so comfortable? And it goes without saying that Uhuru is building back Kanu. Uhuru is going back to Kanu. And Kanu, and everybody that is in Jubilee today, the Jubilee part that listens to Uhuru will be absorbed into Kanu without a word. And as we walk into the next election, Kanu will be the biggest party that is calling the shots in the country. We do not know where this position will leave ODM, because it is fundamental to ask ourselves, ODM had an agreement, a coalition agreement in the NASA umbrella with Wiper, with ANC, and with Ford Kenya. So if Wiper has already crossed over, so what is the implication of this move to the ODM party? Does it reduce the numbers of ODM members? Or what implication does it have? This we will look at it as things continue to unfold. However, we must recognize the efforts that are being made by the ODM party to capture Western Kenya, the larger Western Kenya. And that is being done with the phasing out of people like Moses Wetangula, whose court battle on remaining as the party leader of Ford Kenya is as good as done. Eventually, he'll have to leave the position. And if you look at the conversations that are going on within the SLE faction of Ford Kenya, it goes without saying that Moses Wetangula will not retain his party leadership at Ford Kenya. Then another besieged leader is Musalia Mudavadi of ANC. At the moment, there is a petition before the Registrar of Political Parties filed by the national youth leader for ANC. And she is calling for the Registrar of Political Parties to compel the party ANC to go into elections and elect new party officials, as it is by their constitution that there will be new office bearers after every 5 years. Now we should ask ourselves, if these elections are carried out, will Musalia Mudavadi still maintain his position as the party leader? That is where the big question is. But eventually, the ANC party and the Ford Kenya party will have to collapse. They will collapse and form one particular front that will be adherent to the BBI direction. And you can see the inroads that are being made today in Western Kenya are all counterpointing to that reality. And when that happens eventually, then the ODM party still has a strong constituent that is intact. And then we look at the matrix in the general election of 2022. How will it work? Given that at that time Kanu will be the biggest party, the strongest party, and then ODM will be the party with the second majority, then we'll see how these dynamics will play into deciding who becomes president and who becomes prime minister. But for the part of the prime minister, it is, in my opinion, it is very concrete that Gideon Moi will make the next prime minister. If you like these conversations and you would like to continue hearing from us, kindly click the subscribe button. You can also you can drop a comment, and you can also share this video with people of like mind.